Good evening.
Hi, good evening.
My name is Mustafa Ridwan. I'm a full stack developer.
All right, nice to meet you, Mustafa. John, can you introduce yourself? Safia, would you like to introduce yourself to her? I mean, she's introduced herself, but it's only fair that we introduce ourselves to her. You already know me, I don't have to introduce myself. So please, can you unmute yourselves and say hi to the
Good
guests?
evening, ma. Good evening. My name is John. I'm in the Tech fac.
All right, thank you very much, John.
Good evening. My name is Sophia Mohammed and I'm the project manager.
All right, Safia, nice to meet you. Oh, okay. So we've already shared a set of curated questions with Grace in advance. It came directly from the students. So Grace will be sharing her insights, her journey, and she'll also be answering the questions here. So thank you so much, Grace. You can go ahead, you can resume.
All right, thank you so much. It's nice to meet the few people that have spoken, and hopefully, I will get to meet every other person as we go. So, one of the questions that were asked was, what are some of the key milestones or the turning points in my tech career over the years? So, for me, that would be when I started taking architecture seriously, that's system design. So previously, I would just be coding. You tell me, oh, I need this application, I need this functionality, and I would just go ahead to just ask for designs and basic questions. But when I start asking to understand why I'm doing what I'm doing and how best it can be developed, that's when I started, I started feeling like I'm actually doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't know if I'm saying and passing the message across. So when you start putting architecture or designs in place, you realize that your code is easier to read, it's faster, it's more performance. Basically, there are a lot of things that happen when you do that. So I think hi medium is an hour, right? Just to
Yes,
confirm.
it is.
Okay. All right. So the next question was, and because I don't want to just be talking to myself, I'm going to be asking questions, right? If I have any questions. Thank you. So the next question was if I think I'll leave this for the last. Hopefully I remember.
Would you like me to share my screen? It has the questions, so you could just read. Or would you rather go ahead like this?
I'm okay. I'm okay.
Okay.
Because I'm kind of jumping some, leaving some.
Okay.
Okay. So I was asked what it's my typical day as a software developer. Well, most times I don't have a typical day, but there are some things that actually do happen regularly, and that's when I wake up, I usually have my to-do list from like the previous day, where I'm like, okay, I have this task to do, I have this task to do. It could be code related, it could be just my regular life, yeah. But I usually just have it listed out so that when I wake up the next day, I just go through it. What can I do today? At least for sure, because we write out a lot of plans and we can't do everything. So I kind of just pick out the ones I would be able to do, and then I start working on that. Some days I actually go to the office, so yeah, I transport myself in Lagos and all that. Then when I get to work, I start to, if I said that day I was going to be focused on a particular code, I would give myself 2, 3 hours of complete focus. I actually put playtime in between my activities. So I could just be like, my alarm rings, I'm like, oh, it's playtime. And I use 20 minutes, 30 minutes to just walk around, talk to my colleagues. If I'm at home, I would just maybe press my phone or check my messages or maybe read a quick page or chapter in my novel. Yeah. So I always try to get those breaks in between. But one thing I've not been able to do is actually eat on time, but I'm getting there. Um, so I think that's basically what it is. Code, 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 play, press my phone a bit, read a novel here and there. Once in a while I eat early enough, sometimes not. And so moving on to the next question. This question is asking me how I managed to switch between writing front-end code and writing backend, basically doing backend and front-end. So I know it can be really confusing, especially if you're doing projects that cut across both responsibilities. So say, for example, you're working on another project, you're a front-end developer then, and you're working on maybe your side project, and you're doing backend then, because maybe you're learning, you're trying to perfect your skills, or you're just doing another project. So usually how I personally try to manage that is I skip out time. That's the best way I can do. I know that time sometimes things merge into themselves, but I try to keep out time for specific tasks. So if I know that today I'm going to be doing my front end tasks and I'm also going to be doing the back end, I would say for the next 2 hours at least, or 1 hour, I'm going to be focused on these tasks. And so I will condition my mind to know that right now I'm going to be writing only front end. So I would not confuse myself with writing syntax from back end in my front end code and then realizing that it's not working because I'm writing some other syntax. So I try to section out a particular time and actually focus on it. Because sometimes we have those confusions or switching issues when we are doing too many things at once or doing the both activities at once. It happens. People just kind of keep two laptops. I'm like, okay, let me just do this for a little while, then move over to the next. I don't advise that. I rather advise just focus on one for a little while, a short while, instead of the whole day, maybe some hours. You close that and focus on the next one. So before I continue, because I have been speaking to myself, or not speaking to myself, I would like to find out who has been listening and if there's anything that you've picked that has been helpful to, or that you think will be helpful to you later on. Please don't hesitate to raise up your hand and say something. Okay. Right. At least I got one emoji. Okay, so thank you. So there's this question that was asked about my go-to tools for or libraries for building. That's mostly front end though, because I focus on front end. I like using React. And first of all, if I mention the rest, I know people keep saying, why not Angular? Especially the fact that I work in the banking sector, like everybody's trying to push me to Angular because, oh, they feel it's more secure. I don't have a preference, yes, but I just use React because maybe because that's what I learned with. And, when you become used to something, it's a lot harder for someone to just push you to the next thing. Although it's good to be flexible though. So I like to use React because I know it's flexible. I could install various libraries. I could, be creative on React. So that's why I like to use it. Some other, that's React and Vite. I know that Create React app now is, I won't advise it for anybody anyways. I feel like it's deprecated already. All right, so I also use Tailwind for my styling. Many material UI, there are many really, but I just stick to Tailwind and then add any other one whenever I feel like or whenever the design requires. Then I also use React Query. That's for like endpoint calls with Axios, yes. So the React Query helps me with catching, improving my performance, virtualization. It has a lot of benefits here, especially for a front-end developer. So it's one of the tools I use. And Framer Motion, we like to see our designs, pleasing, having some motion, sometimes dancing around. So formal motion helps a lot in that aspect. Okay. And I was just speaking about designs, and so this question is how I balance building visually appealing designs and functionally acceptable code. So yeah, I know there's always a struggle between building what is really beautiful, really nice, and building what is actually functional. So in these scenarios, right, the first thing I always say to myself is, despite the fact that there's a design, this has been approved. The first thing I ask myself, is this easy for my users to understand? That's the first thing. Because if it's not easy for them, how will it be easy for me to even code? So most times I just try to look through the designs. I'm like, okay, this looks nice, but is it usable? And if I should have any issues, luckily I know in the person designing it, I could actually reach out, and explain my point. If it's taken, fine. If it's not, okay, we move ahead and try to build it. But if I have a way, I try to find out if it's usable for the users and if it's also doable for me. So I would not go out of my way to design something that is not doable and waste more time if I know I'm the only one on that project, yes. And maybe I cannot seek help, which is always rare. So I try to do something that is doable and would follow the functionality flow. So imagine what I'm saying is, okay, so imagine you have a design that has one page divided into maybe 5 places, and you're just wondering why that particular, and then the spaces are so many, but it's looking nice, it's swapping, it's moving, but you're just wondering, why should I have 5 pages when I could have maybe 2, and it'll be faster for my user? Some questions like that. And it's also better for your code, maybe having a component and just writing it in 2 places instead of 5, maybe. So when I think of those things, it helps me design better and actually have functional code. I don't know if that was helpful. Okay. Now, what is the most exciting project I've ever worked on? And what did I use to build it? I've worked on so many exciting projects. There's this particular one I worked with a group of friends actually. It's a loan application. So I was actually working with let's say 3 front end and actually 1 back end. So I had to try to manage everyone, bringing their codes together, merge it into one, have meetings, try to make everyone understand the flow of the design. It was exciting because I had never really gone to that scale of handling so much. I even had to handle deployments. So there were moments of frustration, and it was really exciting because I had to now put a lot of things in place. I had to do front end, I had to do back end, I had to do deployments, understand databases. I even had to understand Java. I don't write Java. So yeah, that's why it was really interesting. And really, sometimes I wish I could do that again, but it's really stressful, so I won't do it again. All right. So that was one of the exciting projects I had done personally. Okay. So this question says, what is the most important and technical skills that front-end developers need? I would say all developers need. It's good that this was both soft and technical skills, because most times people tend to, excuse me, people tend to focus on only their technical skills. But I've come to realize that sometimes, yes, your technical skills matter, but that's not what people really see. People see your soft skills. So imagine you walk into a place and Everybody has heard, oh, I have a new colleague resuming, and you resume. Everybody's looking at you. I'm like, what can you do? Why did they hire you? And all of that. Especially maybe even they brought in their friends so and the person didn't get in. So at that point, your technical skills are not going to really like talk for you. Because at that first 1 week or so, you've not done anything. Nobody knows what you can do, despite what you said you can do. So it's how you communicate with them, your new colleagues, how you carry yourself, how you speak about what you do. So I would say communication and your curiosity. So when I say curiosity is in this scenario, yeah, you go into a new place and you're just, oh, I just resumed, and then you just stay on your own, you know, you don't really want to know how their processes go. You don't want to know the flow of chain of command, how they write their code structure. You're not picking up an old code base to be like, oh, I just want to understand what's happening here. You're not doing anything. Personally, I'll be like, okay, let's watch and see. And then sometimes people will already write you off before you actually prove yourself. So then technical skills I would say are really important, especially when you're starting, is the first thing, understand the dynamics of whatever languages you're writing or whatever you're writing, not just the language. So say, for example, as a front-end developer, you need to understand how the browser actually works and what you're actually writing. You're writing HTML, you're writing CSS. Maybe you're writing in React, Angular, and the rest. But you have to actually understand those core um, technicalities of what happens while you code. As a backend developer, you need to know how your applications build, compile, how to run, what is actually happening in the background. Like, you need to be inquisitive. Because if you don't know those processes, anybody could lie to you. And sometimes you could actually have bugs you cannot fix because you don't really know what's happening. And so these days we have frameworks, we have libraries, we have so many things handling those core activities. You don't need to know all of them, but just having a basic understanding before you use something, just have a general idea of what is it doing, how is it helping make my work better. So that's how, or those are the skills I feel are important for developers. And this question is asking me what languages or tools I prefer for backend. Really, I don't really have any specific. So the thing is, based on what you're building, um, the language also matters. So there are places that will tell you because you want to build an enterprise applications, you should build it in Java or you should build it in .NET Core. Or if you want to just build quick, fast applications, you should Next.js, Really, it's just about what is being used where you are. And I would just say it depends. Do you just want a quick application that has structure already, has community, it's fast, basically. You can use, and then you can use that particular one for both front end and back end. Node is good because you have the JavaScript aspect, which is React to the front end. You can use Next.js to write both server side, client side, some backend API. And so it depends on what you want to actually build. And then you want to build really large scale applications. People are of the notion that, oh, .NET. So really, not to say too much about that, it's based on where you're working and what you want to build. So now, some of the mistakes that backend developers make, or basically junior developers or people make, not just the juniors. So before I even continue, there are some really funny things I've seen over the years. Yes. And please, before I continue, you guys can still hear me. Yeah? Thank you. Thank you. So Being a front-end developer, I've seen a lot of APIs, and I must tell you, there are a lot of things that are being overlooked, because now I'm at the front end and I kind of at the core of every confusion or everything the user would see. So now I have to stand in as the user. So imagine I'm calling an endpoint and the response I'm getting is not structured. Okay, the first response has a different structure, the second response has a different structure. How am I supposed to know when a response comes in that I want and then send it to the user or show it to the user in the right way? That's one. Two, sometimes the response come in and sometimes they come in like from directly from the database. And so it's filled up with um I don't know the language, but a lot of exception errors, and I can't even figure out what the actual error is. Or sometimes it's really vague. I'll just see an error occur. Like, what error occurred? What did I miss? Did I miss a number field? Did I miss a string? What was it a required field I missed? I wouldn't know. I would now have to call the backend developer. Please, this is what I'm getting. And then I start describing, oh, I called this endpoint, this is how I called it. You send payload. Some of those things can be avoided. And so some of those mistakes, as I was trying to explain, is not handling errors properly. So in fact, I feel like handling errors are one of the most important things to do when you develop your APIs. So, and also assuming that your API would never fail, or assuming that your user will use your API the way they should use it. Excuse me. So let me use the most basic one. Imagine a login endpoint. Yes, as a front-end developer, I integrated a backend endpoints. Yes, I did validations. It has to be email, it has to be password, or it has to be required. But on the back end, the person maybe did not put some restrictions. It did not say, oh, you not put the restriction of, oh, let the characters not be more than 8, if that was a restriction, or let the email actually be an email. And what if I missed that on the front end? So that means it just passed. So there was no guard on my own, there's no guard on the back end, everything just works. And so that's why never assume that someone else has done it, or the front end has done it, or the back end has done it either ways. Always do your own checks and balances. Put all blockages that you can put. If you want to put validations, make sure you put them. Don't say, oh, the front end developer will put the validations. What if there was, okay, say for example, someone, I won't say hijacked into the system, but was able to send a payload that was not from the front end. Maybe they injected it. Yes, let's put it that way. And now you did not put any validation. So everything is just going to fail because now they're sending in things that are not right. So your API will crash, most likely, especially if you do not even put exception handling and all of that. So always assume the worst when you're coding. So yeah, that's another error or another thing people try to make mistakes about. And then people also forget about authorization. So yes, we do the regular check, login, password, and you let user in. Sometimes it's not just that. Now there are some maybe routes, endpoints that some users are not supposed to have access to. So because maybe you put out some of the endpoints in the place or through the middleware that was supposed to accept and authorize those users, you now forget the other ones and just say, they'll never have access to that endpoint. Or the front-end developer is going to put that endpoint in the right screen, so the user will never really have access to it. But what if a user has access to an admin endpoint by routing to a page they're not supposed to route to? And they're allowed because there was no form of, yes, there's an authentication, but there's no form of authorization on that endpoint. So those are some of the mistakes. There are very many others, but these are some of the ones I see a lot. And then having your application, your endpoints or responses not having a structure. I feel like everyone should have their particular structure, or maybe your organization, you should follow your organization structure. You know, whether you're writing code with like your keys with camel cases, or you're using Pascal case, but you have to follow that particular pattern. Your response should have a pattern. Your payload, like basically, have structure. 'Cause now, when you don't have structure, you confuse yourself, and you also confuse the people consuming your endpoints. Yeah. All right. So the next thing I'm being asked is how I handle system design, like the scalability issues in real world projects. So I mentioned while I was starting that I started focusing on system designs and basically how to scale my projects. And that's when it really became exciting for me. So I stopped just saying, oh, how do I code this? What tool should I use? And started asking questions like, who is going to use my application? How many people are going to use my application? Do I think that the number of customers on this application would grow within the next 3 months or 2 months? And so also, would this code be handed over to another person later on? So that's the kind of questions I start asking myself. Because now I'm not just coding, now I'm building. I'm building solutions. And so I have to ask myself questions that would um, cater to the scalability of my project or the product. And so as you have to now start focusing on catching information so that you don't, go back to the endpoint every single time you need information, slowing down the performance of the application, need to handle lazy loading, so that users will not just see blank screens and there will be no delays. Basically, there's so many things to think about. You need to start asking these questions one by one and get clear answers. You need to start logging. So maybe you're a backend developer and you just write your code by just creating endpoints. I feel that you should start writing logs for your application. Clear logs. Times you have to put users like authentication, who is passing the information, what are they passing, when did they pass it, what was the response they got. You need to log all those things because it will save your life. So basically, when you start thinking about scalability and how to grow your application for the future, start thinking about how well you can fail fast while building. Meaning, for everything that you're building or implementing, think of all the points that you could fail, then try to fix it. You don't have to fix everything, but at least you've thought of it. So if it happens in the future, you'll be like, I thought of it. I just wasn't as the capacity to fix it then. Maybe at that time now, you can now fix it. So asking questions and doing some of the things I've mentioned will actually help with design issues later on. Okay. How do I collaborate with designers, product managers? Basically, how do I collaborate with everyone I come across in the tech space and outside here? So personally, I tend to over communicate. I don't know if that is a word, but I tend to do it. So I know there is this theory or this conception or understanding that developers don't talk, they just want to, code, they just want to get their tasks done, they just want to be on their system and churn out products. Yes, at times that can be true. But I also mentioned earlier that communication is really great for a developer. And so I try to integrate that into my lifestyle, my life as a developer, in fact, my entire lifestyle, so that it became a habit. So now, example, I'm given a project, and at first, usually at the beginning, users or product owners, sorry, most of them don't really know what they actually want at the end of the day. So now you have to be able to ask questions that would help you and help whoever is bringing the product to you, because you need to understand the flow. And to understand that you need to talk, you need to communicate. You cannot just start building, because by the time you start building, you can build for like a week, and then you come back, or they're asking questions on stand up or on meetings, and they're like, that's not what I said. That's not how we and you'll be like, but that is what you give to me on paper or something. Because we're not asking the right questions, we're not having the back and forth at the beginning, it becomes an issue later. So personally, I tend to ask a lot of questions. I don't care if bugging you, at least I don't try to bug. I just ask, am I bugging you? If you say, no, you're not disturbing, all right, go ahead, ask your questions. And I ask questions. Because I don't feel any question is too annoying. As far as it's not stupid, yes. And I'm trying to understand the application better. And sometimes the questions you ask actually make them think about it. I'm like, yes, we actually need to have that future. Or I don't think this would work. Let's try it your way, or let's try it another way. Because we're asking questions and we're communicating. So that's how I collaborate. That's the first thing and some of the most important things I do. So the next things, yeah, I leave Figma comments. Sometimes if I can't reach the designer, or I want to reach everybody on the team, and I don't want to be having individual calls, I just drop comments. I'll ask for clarifications, still part of communication. I ask for feedback. Oh, I'm building something. Maybe I'm done with a particular screen or functionality. I'm like, okay, guys, just have a look at this. Are you okay? Is it fine? Do you think we should do this? Earlier on, before I keep going, because in my own code, I'm building. I'm building on what I'm built before. So if you now come and tell me that the one I did at the beginning is not what you like, or is not the right one, and that means that's going to scatter every other thing I've done. And so I try to ask questions early. Yes, there's also stand-ups. Attending stand-ups and giving your own feedback actually helps for collaboration. Doing videos, there's some people that don't really like meetings, so you just do Loom videos or any kind of videos and share it to who you need to share it to, and it also helps. Those are all ways I collaborate to avoid the whole what I designed, what you designed versus what I built, and what you asked me versus what I've done, and all of that. What has my experience been transitioning from level to level? Well, sometimes you don't really know that you are transitioning until you have transitioned. Sometimes you know. You could just be at a role, or you could just be doing your freelance gig, building applications, building both front end, back end, and you're just going. And then you just realize that you can take on 2 projects at once, or you just realize that you're having so many jobs at once. Like, you just move to the next level without realizing it. Yeah. And so my own experience basically was, most times my transitioning was very intentional. So by the time I get to a particular level, I kind of give myself a time frame. I'm like, I don't want to be here more than 2 years, or I don't want to be here more than a year. If it's at a job, I'm like, at this job, by the time I'm here for 6 months or 1 year or 2 years, I want to start looking for a higher opportunity, whether it's in the same company or somewhere else, because I need more challenges to grow. So basically, that's how my own experience has been from moving to another level. So before I started as like a junior, I first said I wanted to do an internship, and I wanted to be very involved. So I went for a physical internship. So I went there, I think, every day for about 3 months, because I didn't want to do 6 months, 1 year internship. I needed something fast, needed to grow really fast. So I just went for that. And then, luckily enough, afterwards, I got into junior role. And then for that junior role, I told myself I didn't want to stay there for more than a year, actually. But I ended up staying there for a year plus. Well, the good thing was I had a plan. So within the 1 year, I started looking for another role that would help push me better and challenge me. And I got it because I had a plan, right? And I also was making friends. And I was also putting myself out there. And so apart from doing those things, I know there's also the part where you're feeling like, is it really time for me to move? Is it really, am I able to do it? The whole imposter syndrome, it also came for me. But the way I was able to overcome that and move to the next level was just, you know what, you told yourself that you're not going to stay here or in this at this level for more than 2 years. And so however you're going to do it, if you're going to take courses for the next 2 weeks, if you're going to build a project for the next 1 month so that you accumulate more skills and you're able to move to the next level, just do it. And so whenever I'm at that phase where I'm moving, I try to take on more courses. I try to think of what the next level would feel like. So what would I be doing? Maybe so that's when I mentioned the whole architecture thing. So before I moved to the level I am at now, I started thinking about architecture, how to build my applications better, how to build it for other people to actually work on the application with me. So when I started thinking about those things and doing them, it was easier for me to feel that I have grown and I am ready. Okay, so I want to keep time, a few minutes for questions or anything I have not added before we end this section. So I just have a few more questions I'm going to answer. And there's this question about how I've faced challenges as a woman in tech and how I've been able to navigate them. So I'll just be straightforward with that one. That one does not go away. Being a woman in tech has its own challenges in the sense that whenever you walk into a room or wherever you're in a team, the first thing they think is, oh, you're too soft. Let's just give her something little to work with. Or she won't be able to do it. And the only way I've been able to navigate those challenges is just actually proving myself that I can actually do this thing that you say I can do, and I can even do it a lot better than you thought I was able to do. And so that's just how I've been able to navigate it, trying to just do the work and do it well, not just passing by. So usually there's a question here that asks, what do you look out for in interns or mentees? Personally, I look out for people who are, I want to put it, quick to pick up, quick to pick up the points that I'm trying to make or that they are passing through. Like for instance, I meet an intern or a mentee that's a front-end developer, and yes, you're still learning. But I kind of see that when I ask you questions, you have an idea. You don't know it, yes, I get that, but you have an idea. And so that tells me that you're inquisitive enough to like know that you don't know this thing. I have seen it somewhere. I looked at it, I read it, but I didn't quite understand it. But this is what I understand by it. So I look out for people that try to learn things that they don't really know about, in the sense of just having an idea. That works for me. And then being able to communicate. Wow, I cannot emphasize it enough. For myself, this is the most, for me, this is actually the most important thing I look out for, because I give you a task and I possibly know you might not be able to do it, possibly. And I also know you can do it too. But you're taking hours, you're taking days, you're taking almost weeks. And I know it shouldn't take you that long, but you're not saying anything. I'll just keep quiet, Sha, because what can I do? You're not asking for help, because I know if I offer the help, you might still not understand it. But people that are willing to receive help actually would listen and receive it and pick up quickly. So those are some of the things I look out for. And so I'll just quickly go through these. What are my learning habits and how I grow? I mentioned earlier that I take courses or I build projects. But what I lean towards is building projects. That's how I learn. I'm not very good at watching YouTube videos or taking a lot of courses. I only take courses maybe if I'm writing an examination and I want to refresh my memory. But if I've not done a practical project on it, it's really going to be hard for me. So I first of all build projects, and I tend to go for projects that I know that I might not be able to build. So that while I'm building, I'm doing research, doing new things, basically. And then another thing is by teaching others. So that's why I usually like taking on a mentee or two. Because while I'm speaking to them, while I'm showing them, I'm also learning, I'm also keeping my memory fresh. And so, this is one of the last questions. This question is, what's one underrated skill that has helped you grow professionally in tech? What has helped me grow in tech is, first of all, you said one skill. Can I mention two? Okay, so one skill is documentation, first of all. I know people overlook documentation a lot, whether they are the ones writing it for others or they are reading other people's documentation. But I don't think I would have grown as fast as I've grown if I don't read documentations. Because there are a lot of questions we would ask, I would have asked that were staring at me right in the eye based on the documentations. So just glancing through or just reading line by line and just getting a quick glance, you can know some of the things that would have given you bulk issues later on. So this is what I usually do. I come into a new project or come into a new thing and building, and I'm using a new library framework. I go through their documentation page for page. I might not go through everything, but I might just glance through. Okay. So in my head, I kind of know if I'm having a bug, I could go to this section and maybe I'll find an answer. Or I could know the kind of question to actually ask Chrome, the browser or ChatGPT. But if you don't even have an idea, how do you ask the question? So I really feel that has really helped me a lot in growing. And so I would end in with this last question. And it says, what would I give to my beginner self as a piece of advice? What advice would I give to myself as a beginner? And that's what I would have given myself if I was just starting, or when I started and I knew my future self, is I need to leave being perfect. I should just be consistent. Because at the earlier time, I just wanted to do something and do it well. And so I kept on doing what I did not like to do. And I think I was, what was I focused on? I think that was data science at the beginning. Kept on doing that. Oh, it wasn't really working for me. So I devised another means. I started kind of touching everything. I started having an understanding of almost every area so that I would know where I want to go. And I saw somewhere I liked. I started working on that place as front end, back end, almost every time. I built projects. I stopped, took on courses, built projects, entered boot camps, did it little by little until I felt, okay, we can keep moving on with this. I wouldn't say I ever felt ready. No. But I kept building. That's what mattered. Kept learning and I kept building. So what I would tell myself is, don't feel discouraged, because at that point I was like, don't know this thing, just leave it. And so it delayed my starting for a while, around a year or two. So I would just tell myself, just leave being perfect or anything. Just take it small, little by little, and you'll be fine. Thank you, guys. Anything else to add? And I hope I haven't bored you to sleep.
Okay, so I have a question. Can I ask a quick question?
Yes, please.
All right. So I'd like to know, how can CAP students, because the people that are joining this meeting, they are CAP students. So how can they make themselves stand out in interviews or internships, so like they can get these opportunities? What do you think can make them stand out? I mean, if you were recruiting, what are the things that you would most likely look out for during an interview?
Okay. So what I usually look out for is confidence, first of all. So I start speaking to you and you tell me about yourself is basically confidence. So you should be able to tell me what you actually do or what you've done. And the way you speak about it, I would know if you've actually done it before. So first of all, confidence, and then secondly is actually knowing the functionalities, the core functionalities of what you work with, because that also helps. So what helps or what will help you stand out is the confidence and actually understanding what you're building. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Guys, do we have any questions for her? So you can raise your hand if you have a question, and then you can go ahead and ask. So I'll take that as a no. I'll take it out. It was clear. This session was everyone. We all understood the answers to all the questions, and we have no questions. All right. Mustafa wants to ask a question, so we'll take a question from Mustafa.
Um, Good evening once again. Thank you for the session. I'd like to ask a question. Right now, in terms of tools being used for development, there are a lot of them emerging, and I would say kind of in my own view, they do kind of do the same thing. But how do you identify that okay, there are multiple tools for this, then what can I do? Let me cite an example. When you talk about React, when it comes to complex state management in React, we have Redux, we have Stand. In my own view, I feel like they do the same thing, but do you have to learn both or just kind of choose one? Or when you start a job, there will be kind of what they use for their own state management or something like that.
Okay. So about choosing what to learn and what not to learn. So most times, or first, it's doing research on the most used. Let's put it that way. We mentioned React, and there are also other frameworks. We know that it's between React and Angular. But sometimes when you enter into banking system or corporate environment, some of them use, or most of them actually use Angular. So you will not have to tell yourself, do I want to be a generalist or I want to be in the financial sector? And if you want to be in the financial sector, at times they do it Angular. So you now have to be like, okay, maybe I'll have to learn both or be perfect in one. And then when you talk about state management, like Redux, Stand, and yeah, even Content API, well, as you mentioned, they do almost the same thing, but their projects that one will actually work more for. Yes, Stand is great, but if you compare it to having enterprise application, when I mean enterprise applications where maybe you can have a lot of users, thousands, even millions of users. Sometimes people prefer Redux because now usually there's one place to handle your storage. You can get all your information basically. So it's complex, but it's almost easier to manage than maybe it's just standard. You have to have different, states and all that in different pages. But it depends on the project. And also, yes, it depends on where you're working. Where you're working can also help uh, push you to learn some other tools. Yeah, I hope that helps. Okay.
Does that answer your question, Mustafa? Are we good?
Yes, 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 it does. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So are there any other questions in do you guys have questions? Okay, so I'll take that as a no. So this has been a very refreshing session, very refreshing. So thank you again, Grace, for taking the time to point to our community, and thank you for sharing your experience so openly. I hope that everyone here has taken notes. I hope that you've all picked up something that will shape your path in tech, especially when it comes to software development. Thank you all for showing up. And Grace, I truly, truly appreciate you. And I hope this will not be the last time that I see you. I will see you again. I will see you rather at Cap Tech Hub. I hope we get to see you again. So thank you guys for joining. I think we'll call it a day. Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. Bye, guys.
Bye.